Welcome to the Conscious Solutions Podcast, where we highlight leaders, founders, and practitioners who are shaping the future of healing, recovery, and human transformation. This show is dedicated to the people who help the people, the innovators building clinics, nonprofits, recovery programs, wellness practices, and community-based solutions that create real impact in the world. I'm Brandon Barclay, and over the last 8 years, I've had the privilege of working alongside organizations across the alternative wellness and mental health landscape, from retreat centers and practitioners to nonprofits, recovery programs, and community-driven initiatives. And one thing has become very clear. The people doing the most meaningful work are often the ones with the least support, visibility, and resources. And this podcast is designed to change that by sharing the real stories, lessons, challenges, and breakthroughs from the leaders on the front line of human healing. Thanks for being here, and let's dive into today's conversation. So you're watching, or you might be listening to the Conscious Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Barclay, and today I'm joined by Renzo Sanio of Royal Oak Retreat, a healing retreat center designed to support deep restoration, reflection, and transformation. In this conversation, we'll explore Renzo's journey, what it takes to operate a modern retreat center and property, and how systems and structures support sustainable healing work. For those tuning in for the first time, we are Conscious Solutions, and we help nonprofits, treatment centers, and mission-driven organizations streamline operations, modernize systems, and scale their impact sustainably. If you're looking to simplify your back end or strengthen your operational foundation, stick around. And if you'd like a free growth consultation, just DM us the word growth. Renzo, thank you so much for being here, taking some time out of your day, right after the beginning of the new year. Welcome to the Conscious Solutions Podcast.
This is such a blessing. I'm so excited to be here. I'm happy to be an open book to anybody interested in what we've done at Royal Oak Retreat. Anybody who isn't familiar with what we're doing, I'm happy to go into that as well. And yeah, thank you so much, Brandon.
Absolutely. Where are you joining us from today?
Yeah, right now I am in my home that I've grown up in my whole life. It's in Reston, Virginia, just about an hour west of DC. I graduated from college in May. And I'm in the Army Reserves, so I'll be going to Fort Jackson in a couple of weeks, actually at the end of next week. So just staying here until I finish my training at Fort Jackson, then probably moving to a bigger metro.
All right. Well, I'll say first, thank you for your service and that dedication. Where does your story begin? Why a retreat center or property? What sparked your interest to take on a project like that?
It was a couple things, but I'd like to start with the story about my brother because that has really shaped me into what I am today. I lost my brother to suicide about 4 years ago, and seeing the effects that loss has happened to me and my family has impacted a lot of my decisions since. So he was a great businessman. He took his life at the age of 33, but he employed 80 people.
Wow.
It seemed like he had everything going for him. He had multiple houses. He had a yacht. He had like a very expensive car. He had what we believe to be a really good supportive system of friends and family. But the burdens just became too big. And I was studying physics in college at the time. I was in between my summer semester. And it completely changed my life. I completely did a 180, and instead of studying physics, I got into real estate. I wanted to carry on the business legacy of my brother. And so I just became obsessed in real estate. I won a national award for real estate development. And that was a moment where I was like, okay, I might be okay at this real estate thing. Let's try to take it more seriously. So I doubled down in my classes. I was asking questions after class. I was saying, like, getting as close to the professors as I can. I was reading out of class. It became a true obsession, this real estate development thing. And once it came time to thinking, okay, maybe I can build something myself, the question then became what? And I immediately went back to my brother and my understanding that the environment that we're in can really shape our habits. And so my mission then became, how can I design and craft and curate a space that can create wellness habits that last long beyond people's stay at the property? So that's what we're trying to do at Royal Oak Retreat. Is when you book a stay, you're not booking just an Airbnb, you're booking an experience that will promote wellness practices far beyond your stay. And I see that as my service to the world in creating, positive wellness habits in people.
Wow, I really love that, and thank you for sharing, how you came into this work. Maybe tell us a little bit more about the property itself. How did you find this property, and what was its beginning state, and what did it take to get it to a place where you could put it on the market?
Okay, a lot there. We'll start with how we found we'll start with the genesis of the idea. I think just like any other business, there almost isn't anything original. It's always like a spin-off of something else. And so I first drew inspiration from a 24-year-old named Isaac French, who built a 7-cabin retreat center in Waco, Texas, an hour away from Dallas and Austin. He built 7 cabins for $2.1 million, and he sold it 2 years later for $7 million.
Wow.
Incredible financial return. And at the time, I was understanding what financial forecasting and underwriting looked like for real estate in my classes. And it didn't take long for me to realize that the return from this particular project was unlike anything else we'd been looking at in class. Typically, you look at like a 15% IRR, 15% return for a real estate project to be like really good risk adjusted return. And he was doing like over 100% IRR in his 2 years. And so that was the first like inspiration. It was like, okay, if this guy in Waco, Texas can build 7 cabins, I'm going to build a very similar asset just an hour away from DC, my hometown. And so I started looking for land. I had about $40,000 in the bank that I'd saved up through internships and some money that the Army had given me for my training. And I just started looking for land, found 4 adjoining parcels in the mountains of Virginia. And immediately I knew without visiting that this might be where I wanted to build my first retreat. I started talking to investors, and I reconnected with a friend that I'd played doubles with in high school. He was my high school doubles partner. I said, hey, Raj, there's this parcel that I want to put under contract. I have enough to put it under contract, but I don't have enough money to close. I need another $40,000 for a 50% stake. And it wasn't but 5 minutes that he was like, all right, I'm in. Let's do it. And that was about a year ago today.
And were these parcels vacant, or were there structures on them already?
It was completely vacant land. There was an easement, a road easement in between 2 of them. So we got 2 on one side of the road, 2 on the other. And the rules with housing is that you can have 1 residence per parcel. And so I knew that with this land acquisition, we could build 4. It wasn't quite the 7 that they'd done in Texas, but I figured for someone just getting out of college, it might be okay to just start with 4.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. So you had access to the property. There was a road already. Were there utilities?
No utilities. When you're building in mountain land, you have to supply your own water and sewage system. And so that's one of the main things that you do during your diligence is get a soil engineer out to the site and ask them, hey, can we support the septic systems for X amount of bedrooms? So we wanted to do 2 bedrooms per parcel. That's 8 bedrooms. They do their tests. You pay them like $1,200. We paid them per parcel to just tell us whether the soils were conducive to the septic systems. And then the next thing is drilling a well to supply your water. You can get lucky and hit water at like 150 feet, or you might go 800 feet and still not get water. And that's a $50,000 well if you go all the way down to. So yeah, there was quite nothing. The road wasn't even there. There was just the easement. So we were really starting from nothing.
Okay. And this is just a year ago.
This is just a year ago. Yeah.
Man, all right. So you start with some and was this in the hills then? Is it forested?
Completely forested. It's on the Blue Mountain in Linden,
okay.
Virginia.
Yeah, cool. So you've got 4 parcels, no construction on them, actually no roads, no utilities. And um, where is the property now? I mean, I've looked at your website, so I'm cheating a little bit. But tell us where the property's at now.
So far we built the road, which was step one. We did site work, foundation framing, drying in. We have a functioning unit, vacation unit that people can book on our website, royaloakretreat.com. And everything that, I mean, I can go in the details of everything it took for us to get there, but we have our business permit to operate it as a short-term rental. We have a short-term rental permit. So gone through all the legal requirements to have a functioning vacation rental, starting with bare land to completion.
I I applaud you because in a year that's a great effort to have made, and that's successful already.
Yeah,
So
I appreciate that because I'm not the most patient person, is what I've learned. And so a year ends up feeling like a really long time, but I thank you. I'll take that compliment.
what are kind of looking at the process over this last year from the, you know, finding the properties, deciding to buy the property, having to get a partner so that you could financially make it happen. Um, where did you find the real challenges in the starting of that? Uh, I call it like an engine, right? Like a business is really an engine. We create a business so that it generates revenue, right? Businesses have to generate revenue. So you're in the process of putting the engine together and then getting it started. You know, it's kind of like the old lawnmower where you had to pull a few times before it, fires up. What were big hurdles for you? And maybe it was in partnership, or maybe it was in, an area that you realized you didn't have the skill set that was needed. But kind of thinking about this last year, what were a couple of the big hurdles you had to overcome?
Sure, there are so many. And I want to say that the thing that appealed me about building a house, like real estate development, is like what we did, is that it's the riskiest way to play the real estate game, but it also has the most upside. And being inspired by my brother being a huge risk taker, and just looking back and seeing like, okay, I'm young, this might be an appropriate time to do this. I was obsessed with doing like a real estate development. It's like riskiest way to play, but most upside. So that sold me. And I think about the first page of my real estate development textbook, which says there's going to be 5 times throughout the course of your project where you're going to wake up and the whole fate of the project will be decided by the end of the day. And I can 100% tell you that we've had each of those 5 days. And it completely rocked my world. So this past year has been crazy. The first day came during our diligence. We have a $1,000 deposit on the land. And the only way that we can close on the property is if we can execute on this whole business plan, which requires, is it physically possible? Meaning testing the soils. Is it legally permissible? Is what we're wanting to do compliant with all the government and building codes? So a lot of diligence that has to be done there. Is it fiscally possible? Do we have an idea of how much money we're actually going to spend throughout breaking ground to bringing this to the market? Being undercapitalized will kill you. And so this was also a really big one. There we got into the raising capital and raising the debt. And the last part is this right for the community? Because anytime anything gets built, people are going to want to say, and getting an understanding of our neighbors, the county, what kind of development they wanted to see in their space, because I'm completely new to their space.
Right.
They have lived with it forever. And so doing all these things in 30 days was step one. And we had to extend our diligence period, but that was really step one, because deals are won and lost in due diligence is what I was taught in class. And that has proven to be true. We ended up meeting all those criteria, but not every deal does, and it takes discipline to understand when not to pursue a deal. The next thing was getting the legally permissible part. The county didn't allow our biggest risk throughout the whole project was a hearing that we had in front of the board of supervisors, where we asked them, hey, we built this thing, can we rent it out short term? And so we made about, by the point that we can have the right to even ask them, we have to buy the land, we have to close on the construction loan, we have to put in the foundation, and then you can ask for permission. And then they give you an answer 3 months later.
So was this a variance? Were you applying for a variance?
It's a conditional use permit, but it's very similar.
Yeah,
We didn't have to ask for any variances, which made our case stronger. But that was our biggest risk. We could do this whole investment with the plan of being able to rent it out short term, and the county can just say no.
Did you have examples from other businesses in the area that kind of led you to assuming that they would say yes?
And that's exactly what we did during our diligence, is you can just call the county and say, hey, we're looking at doing this here based on what you've seen with other people applying. What are your immediate thoughts about this parcel? And I encourage anybody to take that step, because they will be happy to tell you, because if you don't get it, it's a headache for them and it's a huge headache for you.
Right,
and so
yeah, absolutely.
And so they explained to us, people that typically apply for things in this area get approved, but it's not guaranteed. And that was step one, because they showed us a map of all the short-term rentals in the county. And there's just a lot of them on this mountain. And so it's easier to be the 50th applicant than it is to be the first in a new area. And that kind of strengthened our conviction to purchase land in this area.
Did you, I want to ask about your financial projections, right? As you're starting a business, especially in real estate, you're looking at pro formas, right? You're looking at your loan values, what your debt ratios are going to be. You're projecting your insurance, your taxes, and then figuring out, all right, for this thing to make money, we have to be bringing in at least this much, right? So how was that for you as you're deciding that this was the avenue that you're going to go down?
Yeah, huge step. And the beautiful part about real estate is that you have proven business models all around you. Every Airbnb was a case study to help us forecast out our revenue. And so we purchased a data software called AirDNA, which tells you how much each Airbnb is making. And so we just found a couple Airbnbs that we thought were going to be similar to what we were going to deliver to the market. And you just take an average of those numbers, and you can say to yourself, if they're making this amount, then I could, and if I build something very similar, I'm probably going to be making about the same amount.
You concerned about market share?
Not at all, really, because the supply is just so small. When hotel developers think about building hotels, they're adding like 150 to 300 keys to a market. We were just going to be adding one. And we thought that our offering was going to be different enough to where, we're drawing from Washington, D.C., which is one of the most high. Actually, it is the highest median income in the United States. And so we figured if we deliver to the top 1 to 5% of the market, there's going to be no concern about market share.
Right. All right. So what other hurdles did you have to get over, maybe personally, to get this off the ground?
Personally, I'm going to speak about family, because your family loves you and they see you taking something that might be devastating, a step that might be devastating, an entrepreneurial step. And their immediate thought is, oh my gosh, I don't want to see my son, I don't want to see my brother fail.
Right.
And so there's a lot of talk on the internet about this, how family members may not be the best people to speak about entrepreneurial endeavors with. And so that was a really big hurdle for me. Luckily, I had some encouragement from my brother, and he shared with me. He's the CMO of Squarespace, so Chief Marketing Officer. He's doing okay, also like a business guy. And he said, he looks at himself working his job, and he says, Renzo, I've thought about doing entrepreneurship, but the truth is that it only gets harder to leave your job as time goes on. So the best time to take an entrepreneurial step is when you don't even have a job. And so it was his encouragement and his experience going through the corporate world which shaped my thought patterns. Also, I had just like a really encouraging example in my brother Aaron, who didn't go to college and immediately jumped into entrepreneurship. And so
Right.
back to the financial forecasting, I asked myself, how much money do I need to live, like, or survive? I probably framed it in my head, and the answer was $1,500. And so when I was
A month.
a month,
Yeah.
and so when I was underwriting building Royal Oak Retreat 1, the question was, will it be able to make me, after my 50% share and after paying debt, $1,500 a month? And the answer was, if we could just hit our market average. So our market average in our area was $50,000. If we could just do $50,000, then I'd be able to survive. And so once I saw that, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this full time. And now our projected revenues after getting a couple months of operations in is going to be closer to $150,000.
Amazing. That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
That's
it's
great. Yeah,
I
you
feel
plan
blessed.
conservative, and then and then you're pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, 100%.
Amazing. So, um, you go through the process with the county, you get your approval to have a short-term rental, um, and you were already in the process of construction at that point. Um, from the time of closing, I'll say, to your first guest, how much time went by?
You mean closing on the property?
Uh-huh.
So we closed on the property on January 10th, and we had our first guest on December 5th.
Awesome.
So and we didn't break ground until January, February, March, because we were still closing on our construction loan after we closed on the land.
Right. So I want to backpedal just a second with the construction loan, and you're getting some questions because I'm in real estate also, right? I've had multiple properties and have done short-term rentals. Not what the not what the preface for the call was, but just because I've got an interest in myself. Um, what was required for you to get approved for the construction loan?
Yep. So when we were underwriting this deal, we heard about, like, it was like the holy grail. It was like a 90% loan to cost loan that we heard existed somewhere. Most banks for construction want to lend you just 80% because construction is really risky, and to hedge their risk, they want to give you less of the cost. They want you to have more skin in the game, and so it took us calling to 10 banks. I know this isn't part of your question, but I want it to be a source of encouragement that, like, you can find a 90% loan to cost loan. And we got it at 5.5% interest, which was far below prime rates at the time. And it's because I asked the lender, I was like, how are you guys able to do this? It's just such a short term loan. It's a 1-year loan, interest only on the drawn funds. And they make their money on the origination fee and just it being a short term. So also they hope that you sign a 30-year fixed with them after. And so we got this 90% loan to cost, interest only, 5.5% interest. It required my parents to co-sign, which was also a big hurdle because of their concern of their son taking this step.
Right, absolutely, absolutely, right. That because the bank wants to know, well, if you don't pay, where am I going to get the money from?
Exactly. Yeah. They're putting out bad debt otherwise. So I had to get my parents to co-sign, and I showed them my underwriting, and I had to explain to them how you like project revenue in real estate. I had to explain to them DSCR, and our DSCR was like over 2, and so they're like, okay, we're not going to lose our house, so we'll sign on the debt. But this wouldn't have been possible without them.
That's amazing. And it's beautiful to have the support of your folks like that. It's kind of that. It's interesting because the earlier comment you made was like, yeah, sometimes family can maybe isn't the best source of advice for an entrepreneur, and they can also be like key holders to making things work too.
100%. So blessed to have my parents and just having that support system. It's invaluable.
And so going back to the timeline that we were talking about, you broke ground in March. You had your first guest in December. So was that December of last year, or this past, or just recent December?
This recent December.
All right. And how was their experience? Were they happy guests?
Yeah, we've yet to get less than a 5-star review. My business partner Raj does our marketing and property management. And so I actually stay out of that whole realm all too much, but I'm most concerned about, like, are we getting any less than 5-star reviews? And we haven't had any yet.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
It's always nerve-wracking. You get your first guest at a property, and all you're praying for is a 5-star review, right? You're just like, please, please, please. So I know that's an amazing accomplishment there. I want to talk about the current structure that you have, right? So you have a business partner.
Yep.
And you're both in 50-50. Curious why you didn't take 51%.
It didn't even occur to me.
Okay.
It's that's something that once we talk about, people always bring it up. It's like, why? And I never really had a good answer. It just made sense to me. Like, to be a true partnership, you just have to have 50%. But also, I'm like a business noob. Like, I'm a business rookie. So, but I just have immense trust in Raj. There's just a lot of trust there. You know, we've known each other since high school. And people will hear that and think, oh, they don't know, like, things happen. That might be well and true, but so far our partnership has remained really strong.
And how do you divide the roles? What does your role look like now versus his?
So when we started, I just needed the money. Rajan grew into a spectacular role without any expectation from myself. He made his money by selling shoes online during college. And from that, he was able to buy his first house at 21. And he just started documenting his story in his senior year of college, saying, I'm going to make $15,000 this month selling dirty shoes. And he got to about like 25,000 followers just talking about his shoe selling business. And it was the day or a couple days after we put the land under contract that he just said, I just put this land under contract for $37,000. We're going to build it into Virginia's #1 wellness experience or vacation rentals. I don't think we were into wellness at this point, but that's all he said. And the video became his like most viewed video. And 99% of the videos after that one was about this cabin project that we were doing. And now he's at 500,000 followers and he gets 30 million views every month talking about our cabin. And that is something that you can't forecast. That is something you can't underwrite. That just happened from, you know, a young kid, because we are kids. It still feels like we're kids just talking about what we're doing on the internet. And so his role is marketing, property management, and brand partnerships, because that is a huge like lever for us, is to leverage our social media presence to get strategic partnerships with brands to feature in our property.
Amazing.
Go ahead. Yeah. And then I was just going to say, on my end, I just do the construction and real estate.
And so you've got one of the properties has a building on it now. Where are you at with the other properties?
So we've done about $20,000 of utility improvements to our first property so that we can have to pretty much set up our next build to not have any utility expenses. So it's just going to be plug and play for water, septic, and electricity for this next cabin that we're going to build. We haven't permitted anything yet. We haven't submitted any applications for design approvals yet, because we want to live with this first building that we've designed. We want to live with it for a little bit, get feedback from our guests so we can just deliver a better product to the market for our next cabin.
Gotcha. So you're kind of taking a little bit of time, kind of research and development with your first build before you execute on the second one.
Exactly. There's also some amazing properties like Othership or like Sweat House, who just have like amazing experiences in retail space, like retail locations. And I would love to do a partnership with them to have an indoor sauna, hot tub, or indoor sauna and cold plunge. I'm just imagining like powered by Othership or like powered by a Sweat House inside of a Royal Oak retreat. It would just add to like such an immersive experience to like our property. So we're also waiting for maybe one of those partnerships to develop as well.
Yeah. So where did this piece around wellness start to come in? You said it wasn't part of the plan initially, but it's when you look at the website, it's very prominent in its placement. So tell us how that came to be.
It was a combination of personal influence. I mentioned my brother Aaron. It was a business decision as well. We felt we could make more from a wellness clientele than a typical clientele. And then the genesis of it all was really Raj making a video about health. We wanted to have a sauna, hot tub, and cold plunge at a minimum because there wasn't anything like that in our market. And he talks about some stats about wellness, real estate growing, this, that, and it went viral. It got millions of views. Kyrie Irving, yeah, I'm not into the basketball scene. Kyrie Irving followed Rajan after that video. He had like a bunch of basketball, like fitness people follow him from that video. And that was our first indication that there might be something to this wellness thing. Then we did a little bit more research. Here's into like the business decision side of it. The wellness traveler spends 175% more than the typical traveler. And by 2030, 1 out of 3 people booking a hotel will book a hotel because of its wellness offering. And top that with wellness real estate being the fastest growing subsector of real estate, it became really obvious that we needed to cater this whole property from the marketing to the actual offering to wellness people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a beautiful location. I encourage everybody to check out your website and see what's going on. What you guys have started to put together there is definitely interesting and inspiring. And before we started to record, one of the things that you talked about was an interest in partnerships. Have you been able to leverage partnerships at this point yet?
Totally. The social media has completely opened that door. We had our sauna, hot tub, and cold plunge partnered up with a company called Ferncrest. If you want to, they franchise dome campgrounds around the United States. And we became really close with the CEO, Brian Linton. And he said, hey, we'll give you this equipment, talk about our franchise opportunities, and we might do like a direct to consumer offering for this equipment. So that's about like $25,000 of equipment that we were able to get because of our social media presence.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean that right there is pretty awesome, man. That is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Any other partnerships?
We're exploring partnerships with Lowe's for our next cabin. Rajan just signed to an agency. We had like a Lowe's wrap after we were done with our framing and sheathing that was just on our videos, and we were getting millions of views, and we had people DM us saying like, hey, like, why aren't you doing a Lowe's partnership? It took some time, but now that seems like it's going to happen. Some wellness companies like Bond Charge, which do red light therapy, Novatech for compression leg sleeves, Primally Pure for soaps and other consumables like that, keeping in line with the wellness, non-toxic theme. Blue Land for laundry detergent, Dr. Bonner's for soap. These are all partnerships that that we have, that kind of also like add a benefit to our guests because they're all the best of the best wellness products in their category.
Yeah, this is so cool, man. And to see how, and it's so interesting to see how social media has played a really influential part in what you.
It's everything. It's almost everything because without social media, a lot of this wouldn't be possible. It really became our safety net when we were thinking about taking our job offers after college. Rajan was blowing up and he said, like Rajan also had that number, like $1,500 a month. And once the follower count started to tick up, we were like, okay, we might be able to be okay. And so it became a really good safety net. And that's why we're here today. Otherwise we'd be slaving away, working corporate.
Yeah, I mean, real estate can really be your retirement plan, if it's done well. I certainly see a lot of success in the future for both of you. You seem to have caught a wave.
Yeah, this wellness thing is real. Like people are turning back to wellness, especially with the boom of AI. And also you can just see the market data. People are spending more on experiences than they are products. And we're delivering an experience to the market that people seem to be happy to pay for.
What do you find? Are you finding any challenges currently with the place that you're at? You're starting to fill your calendar now. Um, is there anything that you're still kind of trying to get your head wrapped around, or like how do you crack that nut? They say that like you have to figure out that problem, so to speak, right?
We're this is the first time we're operating a hospitality business. And we're going through growing pains for sure. And a lot of it is work exploring how we can implement systems to offer a more immediate and hospitable experience to our guests. Right now, Rajan is booking everyone directly himself.
Oh
People
wow,
DM
okay.
people DM them saying, "Hey, I want to stay," or he DMs them after he sees that they like commented on a post, and he closes them in the DMs. And that's a lot of time spent.
It's a lot of time spent.
um, and praise God, we've been booked 100%, like 100% occupancy for our first month in business. And we're projecting to be 100% occupied in January, which is great for our market since the market average is about 55% occupancy. But
And it's the
it's not,
winter. I mean, it's not like you're in South Florida where we are, where it's a big travel destination during the cold months.
December is the hardest month in our market, typically the
Yeah.
lowest occupancy month in our market. Um, and so while it's great, it's not sustainable. We want to scale. And so those are things that we could optimize. Same
Yeah.
things with like paying contractors, like creating a easy system to like have their like 1099 at the end of the year and track all their payments. Our accounting is a mess right now. That's what I was working on before this. Like I mentioned, we're business rookies, so I'm tackling that mountain right now.
Yeah, and thank you for your honesty around it, because I think what happens, or at least this was my experience, was I find myself in a place like that where it's like, oh man, this part is totally messy. And then you realize, oh, okay, we need a system here also, right? What does that look like? Where's your operations book, that tells you what the steps are to take, and you do that every time. And so I think this is such a natural part of entrepreneurship. Is there's going to be aspects that aren't super clean and clear, and we have to figure out what that's going to be for us. And what's amazing about the technology now is you have such great access to be able to either look for something that already exists to fill that problem, bookkeeping, all of that. There's tons of services out there, right? So it's like, oh, okay, we need something to fill this gap over here. Um, but there's also an incredible opportunity now with where technology is, that Well, if you have something kind of unique, um, you can actually build the exact thing that you need instead of trying to make an out of the box system fit your model of business. It's actually much more affordable now to create the exact tool that you need. And it's one of the amazing things that technology is able to do for us now.
Are you referencing like AI offerings?
Yeah, or like AI supported development of products, whether it's vibe coding or app building, right? Like we can develop tools that are the exact tools that a business needs now. Um, and so it just creates a lot of there's so much opportunity um, to be able to get really I guess supported in your business in the exact way that you need for your business.
Yeah, I completely recognize the opportunity, but I've completely missed on taking advantage of it. And that's one of my goals for 26 because being our first year in business, it feels like we're putting out fires every day. And that's not sustainable. You need to be spending your time on implementing systems so that you are proactive in that whole endeavor. And so, yeah, that's definitely like a pain point for us that we're going to be looking to improve on in this next year.
Not only figuring out a system, but I've seen it over and over. It's continuing to use it. It's like going to the gym. You have to like train that muscle. It becomes muscle memory, right? Where it's like, all right, yeah, I could just save this. I could just take a picture of this receipt. Or if in the moment I discipline myself to actually scan it to the right folder so I never have to touch it again, right?
Discipline. Oh man. Yeah, that could be the solution to a lot of problems.
For all of us in lots of ways. That's for sure. Um, so what's your vision for the future? What do you want Royal Oaks to do and look and feel? Maybe it's in a year, maybe it's in 3 years, but where you want to go?
I have dreams about where we could take this business. Um, Number one is creating the most transformative experience in people's stays, um, and optimizing our experience for it to be transformative. There's so many opportunities we can take, and right now we're just scratching the surface. And just where we are today, people are loving their stays at Royal Oak, but I just can't help to think we can do so much more. That's optimizing our experience, people say is number one. I'm happy to go into like what visions we have there. But two is also offering Royal Oaks around the country. There's some key things that make stays at our property special, but they're not hard for other people to emulate or replicate. And so we have a goal of having 100 Royal Oak retreats around the country.
Amazing.
And we can't do it ourselves. It's Roger and I can't raise the debt, raise the capital, do the permitting in different counties. It's just not the smartest way to scale for Roger and I to do them both ourselves. And so we're exploring options to lever our community that we built, to extend this opportunity to more people than just ourselves. And so that's going to be our next goal for 2026 is how can we teach people to replicate this success that we've had in Virginia. And so 100 Royal Oak retreats is number two. And from that, we have, a lot of people interested in building a Royal Oak retreat. I can go to brands, I can go to material suppliers and say, hey, well, these are being put up all around the country. And I can, as like a fiduciary almost, or same way that Costco negotiates for the cheapest price from their suppliers for their customers, I can go to Bond Charge and say, hey, we want to feature your product in all of these cabins of beer that are being put up and make it more economical for other people to have some of these like great experiences in their cabins. So being a servant to people wanting to take on this project is a vision that I have for myself moving forward as well.
I I can see that for you, you know, just in the conversation we've had and what you're putting together. There's so much opportunity ahead for you guys. You're doing a great job. And I can't wait to see where you're at the end of this year, let alone in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I thank you. That's really encouraging for me. I appreciate that.
Anything that you want to share, words of encouragement? You know, you're kind of as you said, you're a noob, but you're new into the entrepreneurial experience. You've taken that risk. You're both feet in right now. You know, just at a year of this endeavor and this process. Any words of encouragement for people that are out there? Maybe they haven't taken that leap yet, or maybe they're at the beginning of their own journey.
Yeah, I everything I say for to answer this question is going to be I'm going to be taking the same encouragement I'm sharing because these are things that I'm telling myself right now. Um, Entrepreneurship is hard, and if you're considering taking an entrepreneurial step, do some deep reflection because it's not going to be easy. But there's some people that are listening to this that no matter what people tell them about entrepreneurship being hard, about it being a challenge, it's just going to go one ear out the other because there's just almost no other opportunity. There's almost no other consideration of how they could be spending their time. And that wasn't always me. You know, I considered entrepreneurship and then I thought about how life could be easy doing something else. And it didn't take but a couple months doing it, knowing that there was no other way I was going to live my life moving forward. I had somebody ask me when we were down in the dumps, you know, like putting in our foundation and not having the not having the foresight to know what we were going to do if we didn't get our short-term rental permit. And they asked me like, are you looking for jobs? And there was no doubt in my mind that I was never going to work for somebody else ever again. And so it only almost becomes addicting. There might be a point there that I didn't catch, but that was just what came to mind. The second thing is what my brother shared with me when I was first taking this leap was that it's never going to become easy to leave your job. Have a number that you need to make to survive and have like a 6-month plan to see if you can get to that number. And if you can do it in 6 months, you're probably going to do it in far less because you're going to be dedicating your whole life to it. And you're going to have this huge fire underneath you. I say that to all my friends that they're all like, oh, I want to do a business. My first question to them is, what is the least amount of money you need to survive? And they must not want it bad enough because they have a number that is feasible, like $2,000 a month, like $3,000 a month. And I mean, they're not taking any action. And it's just going to get harder because the more you make, your lifestyle demands become higher. And then that number, instead of being 1,500, it's going to be like 4,000. It's going to be 6,000. And that's a lot harder to achieve than just 1,500. So start early if you know it in your heart that you want to be an entrepreneur. And the last thing is about fear. Sometimes I avoid my work because it's work that I've never done before, which is such a terrible thing because the work just needs to get done. But this is something I'm struggling with now. I'll avoid the work because I just have never done it before, and just know that I'm experiencing it. If you're experiencing it, I'm there with you. If you have any advice for me, I'd appreciate that. But I'm just working through that right now because it can be intimidating to take on a task that you know needs to get done, but you just don't know if you have the aptitude for. But never let that fear take away from that first step towards achieving it.
That's right. That's right. And there's going to be many of those things in the journey of entrepreneurism where it'll be the first time that you're doing it, right? First time having to figure it out. You know, there was the first podcast conversation that I had, right? There's the first property. There's the first time that we put a property on Airbnb, right? There's the first, you know, unfortunate rental experience, you know, and so that does, I think over time you learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I'll say that I still have my resistance to certain processes, or yeah, there's like maybe a larger energetic expense to figuring something out for that first time, right? Like, oh, what's your bookkeeping system gonna be? You know? Oh man, like for me, that conversation is so uninteresting, right?
Me too.
But it's necessary. And so it's that willingness to be uncomfortable and know that, you know what, we're gonna find whatever the solution is in the process. I may not know what it is starting out, but we're gonna get there. Um, and also that, you know, the just like your properties, the first system that you put in is probably not going to be your last one, right? The accounting system or the bookkeeping system or the system for organizing your receipts or whatever it is that you develop now for the way that your business is now is probably not going to be the one that you're going to be using in 3 years. There's going to be iterations to it. There's going to be developments to it. You might put it in the round bin and develop something totally different or bring in a new tool, right? And so being okay, I think, with that as part of the process, like, yeah, we're gonna make it work the way that we can now, and we might find out in 2 months or 2 years that, you know, we need to augment that, and that's okay, right? That's how we learn. That's how you grow. Um, I'll I've been preaching this book, and I highly encourage, if you haven't read it, maybe you have. Hopefully, it's new, so it's probably not required at school yet. But there's a book out called The Science of Scaling, and you can listen to it. It's an audio book too. I'm on my second pass of it right now, and I highly encourage, especially at the place that you're at, to have a listen to this book and think about how you're structuring your goals and the timelines that you're giving. And I'm going to leave it there, but I want to follow up with you when you get through that book and see if it's changed at all how you're structuring your goals.
That I love the title of that book, and that's amazing advice. As a perfectionist, I want my work to just be like, I do it once and then it's done because it's perfect. And I thought of every contingency, but that's just impossible
It's
with
impossible.
business.
Yeah,
And you have to be okay with your first pass not being the best.
absolutely. And that maybe that's where a little bit of the fear comes from, right? Is like, oh, well, what if I don't do it right? Or what if it's not, you know, the slickest, coolest system? But the action is where you actually start to learn things, right? The action is where the progress happens. The action is where you get relief from the stress that it's not done yet.
Man, you might have like unlocked something for me. That's so right. That last part that you said, the stress comes from the action that hasn't been done yet. Yeah. I'm looking forward to that book. That's such an awesome title, The Science of Scaling. That's exactly what I need right now.
I'll send you a link to it, and I'll make sure that we put it in the details for the podcast below, so our listeners can go check it out too. I'm really on fire about it right now. I hope that you or anybody that's listening picks that book up and gets something valuable out of it, because it's really changing the way that I'm looking at all of the things, the decisions that I'm making right now. So
I like to ask people, what would you summarize your learnings from the book be in like one sentence?
simplicity.
I like that.
You cannot scale a complicated system.
So cool. Man, I'm amped right now. Yeah, I'll pick up that book.
I have really enjoyed this conversation. I'm so excited for you guys and what you're doing. I haven't seen your Instagram and your socials yet, so I'm certainly going to jump over there. I think that I'm getting something out of this too. I haven't really considered how potentially valuable social media could be for our rental property. We have 2 units that we have on the market down here in South Florida, and social media is not an avenue that I've invested in for that rental. So thank you for that inspiration also.
Of course. Yeah, social media is the best performing properties in Virginia all have social media, so I'll just say that.
There it is. Well, Renzo, thank you so much for your time again today. And I wish you guys the best of luck with your endeavors in Royal Oaks and everything that you're building there. And thank you to everybody who's tuned in, either watching or listening. This has been another episode of the Conscious Solutions Podcast. Every conversation reminds us that systems of care are only as strong as the people within them. And if today's episode resonated, please share it forward. My name is Brandon Barclay. Stay present, stay curious, and keep building with heart. Thanks for listening to the Conscious Solutions Podcast and for being part of a movement that supports the people who support the people. If today's conversation inspired you, share it forward, follow the show, and stay connected for upcoming episodes. And if you're a founder, a practitioner, or an organization doing meaningful work in the healing or wellness space, or you're looking for support in building systems that help your mission grow, reach out. I'd love to hear your story and explore what's possible. Until next time, stay curious and keep building with heart.